Hi, my name is Amber Summerow, and you're listening to the Homeschool Success Stories podcast, where I interview homeschool moms. Today, we'll be hearing from Tiana Kubik, whose children are young, but she has a degree in education and she has a lot of great insight. I really enjoyed this interview and I think you're going to find it helpful too. So let's get going. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we're just interested to hear your story. Why don't you give us some background on you and why you started looking into homeschooling, and um, then we'll go from there.
Sure. So it could go really far back. I have a master's degree in early childhood education. I learned a lot about different philosophies when I was in my graduate school. And through that, I kind of had this idea of how I wanted my kids, at least the early years, at least like the preschool years, to be. I very much believe that the early years shouldn't be academic. That's just, and it's just my personal belief, but that should be very much focused on social, emotional, and how to be in the community and all those things. So when we had my son, who's 7 now, and it was time to send him to preschool, we were pretty much already set on sending him to a Waldorf school for preschool. He went there for 2 years. Loved the experience. They took him out. I'm not an outdoorsy person, and so, but I find the value in outdoors. And so sending him to Waldorf was perfect because he goes spend entire mornings in the dirt. And so I was like, you're getting your dirt and I don't have to be out in
Yeah,
like
and I
10
don't have
degrees.
to. Yeah.
um, so as he came up to be in kindergarten, we kind of came up with this I guess the crossroads of like, he could go to his public school, he could stay at Waldorf, which would have required, they have like an early childhood center and then like a main school, and the main school's a little further from our house. It was literally like a 3 block walk to take him to preschool. And that was my other thing. I was like, I'm not driving across Chicago to take him to preschool. It had
Yeah.
to be close.
So how old was he when he started the Waldorf school?
He actually started just before he was 3. That didn't work out because he was having some potty training issues, so we pulled him. And then, which, because we both work from home, so we weren't sending him as part of childcare.
Yeah.
So we pulled him, and then we sent him again when he was just before he was 4, and then he went for 2 years.
Okay.
And in that time, we actually sent him to like a more like daycare academic preschool
Mm-hmm.
because I still wanted him to have that play and all that stuff. We just sent him like for the summer. We basically kept him home that school year, and then the summer before he started, we sent him to this other school where we had friends who were there. He was really
Yeah.
excited to go
Yeah.
to school with
Oh yeah.
Taylor.
It's so fun. Yeah.
So we sent him there for 3 months, and it was partially the social part, but also like we wanted him to get used to going potty at school at a place that wasn't as strict about it, and Waldorf was kind of strict about
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah. So then we sent him for 2 years to Waldorf. When it came time, it was like public school, keep him at Waldorf and potentially have to drive a little bit further
Mm.
to send him to the main school.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we could homeschool him. And it was like a
Yeah.
huge maybe. It was like maybe.
Yeah.
And then the school kind of had a shakeup, like where his teacher, who had been his teacher for a year and a half, left halfway through the year. I
Mm.
kind of wasn't comfortable with how it all went down. And it
Yeah.
kind of pushed me like, well, I don't know if I really want to send him to
Yeah.
Waldorf. And then I actually student taught as part of my graduate degree in a kindergarten public school class, and it
Mm-hmm.
broke my heart. And so the closer we
Oh.
came to like, send them to public school, the
Yeah.
more I was like, I don't want that for my
Yeah.
baby.
It is interesting
Like just
how.
the having his handwriting analyzed and having to write paragraphs at 5 and things like that, where I was just like, I love his curiosity and his inquiry and his love of learning. And I just couldn't, it's not that I couldn't see it happening, because I know lots of great public school teachers in Chicago,
Yeah.
I just couldn't guarantee it. And the fact that I couldn't guarantee it made me scared for him that he was gonna lose it. And so that pushed us further to let's homeschool. And then kind of a side story, we decided to buy a Sprinter van and convert it and travel the country in it. And so once that conversation that kind of came out of nowhere came into play, it was like, well, if we're going to do that, we're going to homeschool.
Yeah, that makes the decision easy.
Yeah, exactly. So all this back and forth, and it was like, should we get a Sprinter van? And then we found one. It was kind of like, maybe let's look into it. And then we found one, and we were like, decision done. We're homeschoolers.
Yeah. So is that what you're doing now?
Well, up until the pandemic, yes.
Yeah. So where are you now?
So right now we're from Chicago. We run a photography studio, and so right now basically the van's parked outside the studio, and we live in the van, and then we spend our days in the studio because we can't shoot in it because the studio has to be closed. We can't photograph people.
Oh, right.
So we basically turned it into our living room.
Yeah.
And the kids play and do stuff, and we have desks in the back. Like we move some stuff around.
Well, and you can't. A lot of places are closed, right?
Yes.
You would normally go and visit and
Yeah. So, we follow a lot of, they call them van lifers. We follow a lot of van lifers and seeing what they've gone through is just insane. Like it's great. It's a great life, but then in something like this, like we have water in our van, but you have to fill that water up. So you have to go to the grocery store so often.
Right.
Places like the beaches, the RV parks, the everything. Some city, we spent like a bit of time in Key West, and Key West said, if you don't live here, you've got to go. So like cities doing that to people. That made us really grateful. We came back to Chicago for business before the pandemic. And then just like things just kept coming up where we didn't leave, and then the pandemic hit, and I'm really, I was super bummed at first, but now I'm like really grateful that we weren't in like Florida and had to trek it back to Chicago. In the middle of the
especially when they were first like closing states and stuff. Like,
well, it was so unknown.
Yeah. Wow. So you lucked out. So how long were you on the road in the van?
So we left Chicago December of 2018. And then we were gone that whole till May, basically. We were in Florida. We went to California. We went down to Florida. We came back for like a short period. And then we drove like the Route 66. And then we went to Phoenix for some work, visited my mom in Vegas, went to California, did like Malibu and Santa Monica and and drove down to San Diego, went to New Orleans, and then we did some stuff in between that.
Yeah, there's a few places in between, but not much. There's a lot of empty road too.
Exactly. We actually went to this campground it's Cosmic Campground in New Mexico, I think, where you go up and you can see like all the stars.
Oh, that's cool.
It is amazing. And Phoenix was amazing. We actually went to Phoenix twice because we passed going to California, and then we did it again when we came back. And then we came back. And then for the summer, because it's a little bit busier for our photo business, we spent about 2 weeks in Chicago and about 2 weeks out. So we were here working, and then we went to Toronto and Montreal, where we have family in Toronto. And then we came back and did some more work, and then we went to Banff in Alberta, Canada. And then we came back for 2 weeks, and then we went to New York. And then for the fall, we're pretty stationary here because it's crazy busy.
Okay.
So and then we left again.
What is your photography business? Why don't you just tell us about that a little bit too?
Oh, sure. We mostly photograph children and families, which is why fall is super busy. A lot of people want fall photos and photos for their holiday cards. And then we also, in the last year or so, have been doing branding and product photography as well. So we went to New Mexico. We do a lot with Kinder Music International. One of our good friends is one of their teachers, and I can't remember her role is, but she works for the corporate office as well. So we've been doing a lot of work where we go photograph their classes in different parts of the country and do those kind of things. And we've been doing more of that as well, which is good. It helps us. We're trying to move it to, we're able to do that more on the road. So it keeps us on the road longer.
Yeah.
And we have multiple photographers in Chicago. So they are able to shoot while we're gone.
Nice.
So that's pretty much how we're able to keep the business going.
Wow.
While we're able to work from the road as well.
That is really awesome. That is really great. Yeah.
We worked really hard to get it to this point. So we're like, yes, sure. We did it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That is really great. So that was 2017 that you're like, let's get a Sprinter van.
2018.
Was it? Oh, okay. So in the fall.
So it was like middle of 2018 when we decided it, and then we left at the end of 2018.
Got it. Okay. So you got to be on the road for a good year.
Yeah.
Off and on, yeah.
Off and on, yeah. And I mean, we've stayed in the van. That's what people in Chicago are like, where's your Chicago apartment? And I'm like, I don't have one. We live in the van. It's our home. We love it. Yeah. And so it's kind of hard for people to wrap their head around the fact that like it's our full-time home.
Yeah. Well, probably as big as some Chicago apartments, I would guess.
Probably. It's I think it's like 70 or 80 square feet.
Oh, that's pretty small.
It's pretty small, but the whole point is to not live in the van. So the whole point is to go places and to get out of the van. And,
right.
There's been rainy days where we've stayed in the van, but the kids love it. We just play games and puzzles and read books and play Legos and stuff. And it's really no different than an apartment, except for less cleaning.
Which is really good. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we spent about 3 months being mobile in Europe when we were. Oh, it wasn't totally by choice. We bought a house, and it was taking a while to close on the house, but it was interesting. We just traveled, and it would have been a lot better if our cars hadn't broken down.
Oh no.
But it was, I was like, well, the cleaning is way better. Like no sweeping, no mopping, like that is really nice. So,
right.
Yeah, so that's something that I think we'll look into doing again, but like with cars that work and better facilities.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. I mean, I was surprised. I think the European campgrounds are a lot more set up for that kind of a thing, because
I've heard they're amazing.
Yeah, they all have electricity and well, they don't even give you a picnic table, but yeah, you've got electricity and water at your campsite. And then
that's awesome.
They don't have tables or anything because everybody just brings their own stuff. And then they always have decent bathrooms and showers and wash areas. So yeah, so it was good, I would say, overall.
Yeah, that's our
dream. When I think about the trip, I think about, breaking down on the freeway. So so that's why I'm like,
it's colored it a little bit.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, the places that you can see and the things you can do, and the kids, they just love to run around. And I mean, how better to be like in nature that way. So that is.
If our whole trip had just been hitting every playground in America, our kids would have been totally happy with that.
Yeah.
Like that's all they like. Everywhere we went, we'd be like, and there's this cool thing. We're in New Orleans. We're gonna have some fun. And they were like, "Where's the playground here?"
Yeah, right.
Like, all right, let's find the playground.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So your oldest is now 8, 7? How old is your oldest?
I lost you. Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
Griff is, he just turned 7.5 earlier this week. So he's 7.5. Adair is 3.5.
Okay.
And it's Griff is a boy, Adair is a girl.
Okay. I figured, but.
Oh.
Yeah. It says that my connection is not good. So it's good that you're recording on your side because we'll get good audio. Did you hear that? Can you hear me?
I'm like, make sure I'm still
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, so you can hear me now. Yeah, so that's why I'm having you record on your side, because at least, because it's saying that my internet isn't so good right now and there is some problem with it. So it's good that you'll have your side. So whatever you say, we'll have good. So, and you are saying more important things. So yeah, okay. So that is pretty much the beginning. So what is your, like, so you've kind of talked a little bit about your philosophy about early education. What is kind of your overall approach? And do you think you'll continue to homeschool, or are you just going to kind of take it year by year and see how it goes?
Well, I always say that we take everything kind of like as it comes. A lot of people, when we first said we were homeschooling or that we were traveling in a van, they kind of seemed like we were like signing away our life. And I'm like, they're like, how long are you going to do it for? And like, as long as we feel like everybody's thriving and happy-ish. Kids are iffy.
Yeah.
But you know, generally everybody's good. We're going to keep doing it.
I love that.
I'm not opposed to sending them to school. So like we've talked about going to Mexico for a little bit, and there's like some fantastic Waldorf schools down there. And so if we find the right environment, then we would send them to school. We can't afford to send both our kids to private school in Chicago, which is why Waldorf was like even further away from us, because I was like, we could maybe send one, but we can't send both. And so it was like, you know, so we're not opposed to school. And if they were to ask, we would look into it. It's a conversation to have. I think it's kind of like we're really feeling, what we're leaning towards saying is that we're self-directed learners.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's like, I think the popular name for that is unschooling, but I think unschooling sounds scary. Like you're not teaching your kids.
Self-directed learning is better.
Exactly. It's more descriptive of what's actually going on. Yeah. And so if part of that self-directed learning is that Griffin were to come to us and be like, hey, I think I'd like to try out school for a bit, he already knows, we've been very clear about our reasoning for not sending him to school, but we would have those discussions with him even more if we felt that he wanted to go to school, just to be like, well, here's all the reasons we chose not to send you to school, but if you really want to give it a try and form your own opinion about it, we can work to figure that out. But it also, like, there's the travel aspect of it too. Yeah. And as far as our family goes, we're probably not going to stop traveling because Griff wants to go to school. So it might be a little negotiation about it, because we have a whole family to consider. Right. So yes, that's kind of where we are. Like we're the self-directed learning is going well. For the most part, we really try to let them be in control. There's some things like getting him to read. I have anxiety about him. He wouldn't at this point choose to learn to read if I weren't really encouraging it. Yeah. And honestly, like with Waldorf, which is where he was, they don't have kids start really reading till like the end of second grade or something like that. So I'm not concerned about it, but at the same time, we live in a society where, like, if he wants to go to summer camp, he needs to, they expect that he at 7 should be able to read to a certain level. So I'm trying to like let him have that autonomy, but also keep him, or like if he decided he wanted to go to some STEM camp or something, that we wouldn't have to worry about whether or not he could hold his own there. Yeah. Kind of where we are. And it might be my own baggage more than his baggage, but
well, It always is. Especially the oldest. I tell my daughter, I'm like, sorry, you were just the guinea pig while I was trying to figure things out, because yeah, I started super, super strict, and then I went super, super loose, and then we kind of found a happy middle.
Exactly.
For us. But it does kind of take some this and then that, and yeah.
I just posted about his half birthday on our Instagram, and that's just, I said he's our trailblazer kid. He's the kid that like went into our wild parenting choices that we had no idea what would work and what wouldn't. And lucky Adair, she's getting the tweaks of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Now I have a good reading curriculum. When I started, it wasn't really that great.
Right.
What to do.
We had no idea what felt good or what didn't, or what worked and what didn't for us. And now we kind of have a better idea. And poor Griff, he got to test it all out.
Yeah. But that's kind of part of it. I talked to an unschooler yesterday, and yeah, she was really really able to trust herself. She's like, and I'm like, how do you just do that? She's like, you just have to trust yourself. I'm like, okay.
Right. Well, and then that's the thing. There's so much reinforcement to that self-directed learning. Like when he was younger, and even with Adair, like I've never taught them colors or shapes or numbers, but they know them because it's part, like you have to know them. Like how do you tell somebody which bucket you want or what thing you want? You have to describe them. So, but then there's just that little bit of like society that pushes back on me that goes, you have to teach them these things.
And kind of what I came to is like, you know what, there's like a minimum, and so we're just going to treat it like chores. And so you have to read every day, you have to do math every day, you've got to do piano every day, because like math and piano is really hard to make up in a month, whereas like history, you can go read a history book and probably learn a lot of it. But math kind of needs to be built, piano, musical instruments kind of need to be built. So that's kind of what we ended up coming to. But I have to tell you a funny story about learning colors, because my oldest, I tried to teach her colors. I'm like, this is blue, this is green, and so I'd be like, so what color is this? And she'd be like, black. Like she had no idea. Like, no.
Oh God, yeah.
So when I had her sister, I was like, forget it, I'm not even gonna bother. I was like, maybe she's just not old enough, So then we're driving down the freeway, and her younger sister is like 18 months, like younger than she was. And she's like, blue, red, just like out of the blue, like she already knew them. So it's like, some of the stuff you go through and you're like, yeah, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. We had that with potty training. Like potty training Griff was so hard. But part of it was that we were trying to potty train him for this preschool goal.
Right.
And when Adair came around, I was so traumatized from potty training Griffin that I was like, you can wear diapers until you go to college. I'm not touching it. Like, we're not doing this. And at 2.5, she brings me underwear and goes, I'm potty training now. And I was like, no. And she basically like just decided and was done. And I'm like, okay.
Wow, that was
I was ready to sit it out.
That was good. You are a lucky woman.
Right.
I've done 8 and none of them have done that.
I didn't think it was possible.
Yeah.
Because people would tell me that when I was potty training Griffin. I'd be like, you are lying to me. And then Adair did it, and I was like, oh, it is possible for them just to decide they don't want to pee in their pants anymore.
Yeah.
But she had us, right? Like, so like Griff didn't really have, like, he had us, but we're adults, but she had him. Yeah. So like, I think a little bit of it was like, anything you can do, I can do better. Like, if Griff can pee in the potty, I can pee in the potty
too. So, and some kids, I say this, like, some kids, it doesn't matter what approach you use, they will be fine. Like, they will figure it out. They will basically raise themselves, and then other kids just need a lot more help. And so that, it has been Yeah, it's been quite the interesting journey, and that's why I love hearing, what happened, what other people experiences are too, because they're all so different. Um, so do you want to,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about what your schedule is like? I know that is something that concerns a lot of people. Like, how do you manage and balance everything?
Sure. So our schedule, um, when we were traveling, it was a little bit looser depending on where we were and what we were doing. But there's some consistent things like, we wake up, we have breakfast. And then if we have work to do, we would do work and the kids would hang out or do what they like, build Legos, do what they want to do. And then we would go out and explore and do those things. We've been in Chicago for 4 or 5 months now. Sorry. And we've kind of fallen into a nice routine. We wake up, we have breakfast, we kind of hang out a little bit. Griff typically will go and do Legos or whatever he wants to do. And that kind of came about with like, we tried to do any like reading, writing in the morning. And he wakes up with this very clear idea about his goals. And then it became a fight because he wanted to do his goals and I have my goals, which isn't a ton. It's literally like 30 minutes to an hour is like but still like it was always a fight. And so finally I was like, well, why am I fighting him? So we switched it up. He goes and literally until lunch, he does whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
And it's always something productive. He's not like he's sitting around twiddling his thumb. He's usually he likes to go and play Legos and listen to a podcast at the same time.
Yeah.
That's like, and I'm like, how can I argue with that? That sounds like a beautiful
I know. I
learn.
always would feel bad if I interrupted my kids when they were happy. But, I think a lot of people who maybe haven't homeschooled or are starting because of the pandemic or forced to, they're like, but how do you do this? And I think it's been good for people because I think they're seeing that you can, because the kids just do stuff.
Exactly. And even my daughter, like our 3-year-old, she will, we bought her a tea set for her half birthday. And literally that was 2 weeks ago. Every day for 2 weeks, she's been having tea parties for like hours on end. And we work and she brings us fake tea. Like, and we sit there, I'm writing an email and I'm like, thank you for the tea.
Yeah.
So like, and she goes on with her day and even for her, I can see her learning a lot. That usually takes us till lunch. Occasionally he will, so we have the only like hard rule we have is on most days, we don't let them take tablets or electronics out until after lunch.
Yeah.
After lunch and after whatever we're supposed to be doing that's more formal, like if he's supposed to be reading or writing, whatever.
Yeah.
So at first what was happening is he would wait till after lunch. We would do those things and then he'd get his tablet and then I would encourage them to do something educational on the tablet. And then usually what happens is around 3 or 4 is when they start like searching Lego builds and Minecraft on YouTube and whatever they want to do, or watching Netflix or whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But what I've been doing the last few days it's kind of nice is I've been kind of showing him like, this is what we have to do today. And you come get me if you basically, we're going to do it after lunch, but if you want to knock it out this morning, you can knock it out this morning. And so I found like today he actually came to me and was like, can I just do it now so that I can watch tablet right after lunch? And I'm like, yeah, so like kind of giving him, you're either going to do it after lunch or you're going to do it, you can decide to do it sooner. But no, there's no electronics until we've kind of done something or go outside, or like there has to be something before.
I know.
Because otherwise what I find is I can't pull them away. Like once they come out, they're out. And then, and I don't want to argue with them about like,
I know
what to do. And it's just, so if the more I can like try and like mold to what they're doing, the better I feel like it all goes.
Yeah.
So
that is awesome. I think that's really good. And I think we're all trying to figure out how to balance and manage electronics.
Yeah.
You know?
My other thing, someone asked about why we chose the afternoon, and I told them because we were doing some after dinner, but after dinner, like literally to get my daughter to put it away, to like get ready for our bedtime stuff was hard. And for some reason, putting it away for food works.
Was okay.
So like we take it out around 3 or 4, and then like 5 or so, we're like, dinner time, let's put the tablets away. And they're like, here you go. And then at night, sometimes at night we let them bring them back out. It kind of depends on, like, I've had a few classes and meetings and things that happen at night, and so we'll be a little bit more loose about like, well,
Yeah,
you guys can do it.
it's
or like,
a nice thing to have in your back pocket when you need it, right?
Exactly. But for the most part, once they turn off at dinner, they're like cool to not turn it back on. Whereas when it was like, turn it off, it's time to get ready for bed, it was like, no.
Yeah.
But that just what works for us. It's nice.
Yeah, it sounds really good. So what recommendations in general would you have for someone that is looking into homeschooling or trying to figure out if they want to do it or not? Well, they're probably practicing it right now. Right. So what recommendations do you have to make it better?
I didn't really know. I did some light research. I did a lot of research, but I didn't go really deep into like any one philosophy. I kind of did a really light thing. So I didn't really know about deschooling until after we had basically done it. So we were homeschooling for about half a year when we left. But I really think we were still trying to mimic more like the school at home. And when we left, we dropped all homeschooling because we were getting used to living in a van on the road.
Yeah.
And so for about 3 months, we didn't do anything. Like we didn't read, we didn't write, we didn't do math, we didn't do anything but get used to this new lifestyle. And in hindsight, I find that so helpful that we really let it go. And then we were more open to seeing what works for us because we weren't trying to maintain just how like something that we were told was how it was supposed to be. Yeah. So my biggest thing, like when I was on like, someone described deschooling as like you're on vacation every day. I don't know if I would go that far to say that, but it was definitely good to see like, what do our kids do when nobody's telling them what to do? And then to build from that. So like, I actually said no. Griff didn't get he has a Switch and he didn't get that till last summer. And I had said no to the Switch for so long. And now like, I'm kicking myself that I said no for so long because he does so many incredible things on it. But like, but like just being able to see like, he has the electronics available. He has the Legos available. He has all these resources. What does he do when we're not directing him how to learn? Yeah. And so we always knew he liked Legos, but like seeing the depth in which he can go when he has more than 20 minutes to play with them, when he has like 4 hours to play Legos, what does he do? Yeah. Was really good for figuring out my approach to getting him to learn things and helping him scaffold to the next level. So that was like, I think that's what I feel like a lot of people, why the pandemic's so hard is because they're going straight from school
to trying to keep doing that.
And even if you like, because people will be like, well, my daughter loves school and loves all things school. And I still think there should have been a break. There should have been nothing's being done for like 3 weeks. Everybody's going to take time and get time to adjust to waking up and not going to school, having all your meals at home, the dynamic of like working with the kids at home. Okay, now let's add that e-learning or that homeschooling back in. Yeah. And I think that's like my biggest thing is like, they're not going to fall behind. They might they might fall behind what you think a little bit, but you can always teach them. They can always learn. I don't say they can always teach them. They can always learn.
Yeah.
But once you have those emotional blocks, like I think that's part of our problem with getting Griff to read on his own, is that I was so like, you have to read, that I put that on him. And now like he has anxiety about learning to read, that had I not done that, he probably would have been like, reading's fun and cool.
I know.
And now it's just like,
my 7-year-old's got a block on writing, and I'm just like,
oh yes. And it's like, it like drives me crazy, because I'm just like, I can battle myself back and forth about it, but at the end of the day, like, until he decides he's going to do it, I can't force him. And I'm not willing to damage our relationship for him to read tomorrow. And that's the big thing. Is like,
it's so hard, because it's like, if you would just focus, I think you could have this done in like 5 minutes, you know. Like, it's not that hard. But
I say that all the time. All the time.
Yeah, but like you say, until they're ready, you know, it's just not going to happen. And that's kind of the lesson of parenting a little bit, I think. So would you like to kind of tell us a little bit about how you were able to make the transition yourself from, like, you know, scheduled, like, this is what we need to do, to being able to be a little more flexible that way?
Yeah. So honestly, it mostly came from, I was really excited for him to go to school. We work from home. I was his, like, more his primary caregiver, because my husband's work carries him. He's a photographer, and I am more on the office side. So he would go photograph families and be gone a little bit more. And so I was more the primary parent. So like any parent, I was like, you're going to school.
Yeah.
I'm getting like 3 hours to work. But what I found is that getting up and getting him to school, and then picking him up and transitioning him back into home, was more a disruption to my day than having him home. Because I could set him up, and we could flow together, right? Like we do now. He plays Legos, and I work. Then we have lunch. Then we go to school. Then he has tablet time, and I get to work some more. And like, and the hard stops of like school and lunchtime was flexible, right? Like, whereas picking him up was a hard, like, I don't care what you're doing at 11:45, you got to be at that school at noon. And so it started there, where I was just like, we just need to learn to flow better, and then we don't have to worry about these drop-off and pickups and teacher conferences. I tell all my friends, like, they freak out about homeschooling, and I watch all the things that they do for school, and I freak out. I'm like, I can't even do it.
My kids have done both too, and I'm like, this is just as much work, except I'm in the car.
Exactly. And you have, if I mean, God forbid your kid has learning issues, then you have to advocate for him. And I have friends who spend so much time at the school advocating for them that I'm like, you could have just homeschooled them.
Yeah, I know.
and I found
less
that too,
like, the amount of time I'm in the car, we could be done.
Exactly. So really, I've also, like, in the last like 6 months, I've also been really studying a little bit of conscious parenting, and listening and reading. I read The Power of Showing Up and a few other books that were about that. And that's really how I think I've come to let it go. And I want to say I've only really let it go in my head in the last 6 months. Before that, it was really like, I was physically probably letting it go, but inside I was doubting myself, and I was doubting what we were doing, and I was doubting if I was doing it right. But with conscious parenting, it's really about respecting kids the same way you would respect an adult, and allowing their feelings and things to matter. And that has gotten me to kind of be more understanding, and not feel as much pressure to be strict with them. And then we have rules, like, you know, sometimes at dinner, they do get upset when the tablet's turned off. And before that would have turned into this, like, do you know how lucky you are?
Yeah.
You got to watch 2 hours of tablet today, and you're being ungrateful, and and then that would make him melt down more, and then I'd melt down. And we're very emotional, Griffin and I. We're like the same. And so like he gets worked up and I get worked up and he gets worked up, and next thing you know, we're like a mess, and my husband and daughter are looking at us like, what the heck just happened to you two? So I've really been trying, you know, I tell him to turn his tablet off and he gets upset. And where I used to get upset at him, I've been really trying to be like, I get that this is hard for you, and really wanted to see that next thing or research that other thing, and I'm gonna hug you and we're gonna move on to dinner. And you're gonna be okay. But like really just acknowledging his feelings about it, and being able to be flexible where I can be flexible makes him more flexible with me. So if he thinks that his goals are going to matter 90% of the time, then that 10% of the time where I'm like, my goals are trumping your goals, he's going to be more understanding than if I'm constantly making him fit to my agenda.
I love that.
So that's kind of what we aim for. It's not always that way. I feel weird telling people stuff because I'm like, we have meltdowns and we break down, and your kids
are still young, and you know, and that is kind of the whole thing of parenting is like, it's not really quite what you thought it would be, you know, and you do learn things about yourself and you have to be better, you know. But listening to the kids, we found that, and my husband is much better at it than I am, which is really nice because, you know, I'm like, I don't care who had the toy, like, just give it to me, we're done. And my husband will be like, okay, what happened? And he'll listen to each kid so they can all tell their side of the story. And then a lot of it is they just need to be heard. And once everybody has like said their thing, then okay. And usually if everybody can hear it, then it's like they hear themselves, and suddenly their reason maybe doesn't sound as good as it did before.
Exactly.
So,
and that's one of like the book, The Power of Showing Up. They talk about the kids want to feel like the 4 S's. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's
I'm not.
like safe. Like in order to show up for your child, you're having them feel safe, seen, soothed, and I want to say secure. I might be wrong on that. And so for me, the scene was huge. Like, like I thought I was like a cool hip parent who like, my kids of course feel seen by me. But then when I was looking at it and I'm like, oh no, every time I escalate with him in the situation, that's me not seeing where he's coming from. And there was a point where I feel like that was happening a lot. And so I don't have to give in. I don't have to stand down. I don't have to be like, great, go watch Netflix for the next 7 hours in order to make him be okay. I just have to acknowledge the fact that it sucks for him that it's not that way. And so that's been so huge for me, that like I don't have to not parent him in order to have him be okay. I can still be the parent and draw the lines and have the boundaries and acknowledge that it sucks that there are boundaries.
That's true.
So that's kind of where we are. And I'm just like, we all have to coexist together in this in our family. Like, and so I put our social emotional above our academic or whatever goals. And so if I feel like I'm always working that angle more, because I know my mom is fantastic, but she was a single mom. So I can totally see my baggage as a kid with a single mom and the way that I grew up. And I know that I struggle emotionally, and I can already see him taking on some of those characteristics. And so I'm just like, what do I do to not pass that on to him? And part of that is is, I don't want to say fixing, because fixing sounds weird to say, but fixing that in myself, like helping the child in me not be that way, and then taking that and helping him not develop it to begin with, because getting over those things at almost 40 is so much harder than just not developing them to begin with.
Well, and I think, that, and that's a little bit how our philosophy has been with our kids, is like, let's just like character development, like Charlotte Mason kind of thing. Like when they're little, like let's develop good habits and learn how to work together. Like that's more important than learning the academics, I think. Because, you can learn the academics and be a real jerk, and what does it matter?
Exactly.
Oh, there's a real smart guy, but they're a jerk,
Exactly.
But you can have someone that maybe doesn't know as much, but they're nice, they're open, they like to learn, they're happy, like they're gonna learn. They're gonna be able to do whatever it is that they really want to, because they have that emotional stability. But and
they have the drive, because so for instance, why I kind of don't worry about the reading is because Griff really wants to do space camp. I think he has to be 8 or 9 to do space camp, but we've also told him, you can't go to space camp and not read, buddy. Like that's not how that works. And so I'm kind of like, you know what, when he's like 8 and we're like, you could do space camp this summer, but you gotta read it. He's gonna be like, where are the books? Let's get this done. And until then, it's the same thing. My daughter has a nickname. We call her Hammer Jammer, which is a long story. But I remember someone was like, how's she gonna know her name? I'm like, well, she's 6 months old. She doesn't need to know her name. And by the time she needs to put it on an application, I guarantee she's not putting Hammer Jammer down on an application. So I don't know. I'm not stressing about it. Someone told me, it's like super like aha moment. Someone in a Facebook group was like, we need to stop treating children like we're preparing them for adulthood while they're children. Like basically oh, they have to, when they get a job, they're going to have to do X, Y, Z, but they're 4. So no, I'm not really worried about my 4-year-old's like team building exercise skills.
I know. And it's like, congratulations, your 3-year-old can read. Like we all learn how, okay?
Exactly.
We all learn how to walk. We all learn how to talk. Like there's a few things just not worried about.
Exactly. And when it comes closer to time, I'm going to worry about it, and we'll tackle it, and it'll be fine. But there's no reason to stress about what kind of coworker my kid's going to make at 6.
Well, and it should all make us all feel better, because I think it's Finland. They don't do any formal education until the kids are 7 or 8, I think.
Yeah.
So and they have really good results. So
there's so many cultures and philosophies that don't even introduce it, and then you wonder a little bit why more American children have more social emotional needs, and it's not because there are, I don't want to make a blanket statement every child.
It doesn't help. We'll say
it doesn't help. Exactly, it doesn't help that we put all this academic pressures on them so early. And it's not until they have a problem that we try to address the social emotional needs. Instead of addressing the social emotional growth and making sure that's solid. And then I much rather have to get an extra tutor to teach him to read than have to send him to extensive therapy because I stressed him out with reading at 5, so.
And I kind of, and that's kind of oldest child too, because my oldest has some of that. Ours was math, but she's doing great now. I think she's recovered.
And that's the thing with kids is they are so forgiving and so resilient. And so even if you screw up, you can, as long as you recognize it and then you try to make that repair at some point. They're going to be able to bounce back. So
I think it's good for them to see that we're human too, and it's not the end of the world to make a few mistakes. We can fix it.
Exactly. And
Nothing
an
is,
intent is, it does mean something.
yeah, totally. The intent, really. And yeah, and apologize when necessary, and, you know, fix it. And like, it does get better. So yeah, there's always hope. And I like that you have gone and found books and resources, you know, recognize, you know, this isn't going quite how I want it to. What, you know, let me see if I can figure out how to do it better. And I think that's, you know, if we can teach our kids that, like, the
Right.
world will be a better place, because newsflash, nobody is perfect.
Nobody's got anything figured out.
And, you know, we're continually learning and growing. And I tell my kids, yeah, I still don't know lots of things, you know.
Exactly.
Like,
All the time I hear different things. Like I hear of a new, like something, and it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that like 3 years ago?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
you feel bad. And it's like, well, I heard about it now. Let's start
right,
today.
yeah, that's, yeah, and that's what we have to, yeah. And you know, it's really interesting because everybody will have, you know, stuff that will trigger them, or that wouldn't trigger someone else, or, you know, we've all got our different strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly.
So, well, we are getting to the end. This has been just like super fun. So,
Yay.
so to end, why don't I ask you kind of what is the best thing about homeschooling, and what has been the hardest?
The best thing. So from an early childhood standpoint, so I went to undergrad for early childhood, did student teaching there. I did it for graduate school. And my favorite part of those was the observation of children, like just as far as fun for me, observing kids, observing how their minds work. And having kids and homeschooling them is basically that 24/7. Like, so, you know,
Yeah.
I get to sit and really observe who they are and what makes them tick. And even when they're playing certain games, watching them figure stuff out for me personally is like, it's like a huge high. I would, if I could like set a recorder and then just like watch what they do all the time, like I would totally subscribe to that channel.
Yeah.
So that's my personal best for our family. I think it's been amazing to just be present for each other and to be able to have the flexibility to do the van traveling because of homeschool.
Yeah.
And that's been super important to us, and we love it. And then the hardest thing, the hardest thing, the doubt. The doubt is so huge, because society tells you homeschoolers are weird and they're not social, and they're not this and they're not that, and you can't possibly do it, and surely you're going to send them to school eventually, and then if you do send them to school, it's like you failed. And so like letting go of all the voices and all the things of other people, and even the other homeschoolers who say if you're not doing it exactly like this, or the thousands of curriculums,
right, there's so much.
So finding your footing is was probably the hardest thing for us, and letting go of the doubt. The pandemic, actually, my kids are pandemic ready. So like they're, so, you know, and I feel bad for my friends who have kids who are not handling it well because they're used to school, but like this, like, if anything made me go like shake all that doubt, it was that, like, of all my worries in this pandemic, my kids are like so low on that list. And so that's the just letting go of doubt, which is my personal like MO, is to doubt myself. I don't know why. I'm sure I could go back and figure it out. But letting go of the doubt when it comes to what we're doing as far as homeschooling and the kids, and whether or not we should be doing what society tells us to do, is so hard. There's
no immediate reward, you know.
Right.
You can't see it yet. And I will say, with my oldest having graduated high school and gone on a mission for a year and a half for our church, and, you know, she's doing great. She's 21 now. happy, and she'll do whatever she wants to do. Like, it's like, phew, it worked.
only 7 more times to get it to complete.
But, it does get easier. The first one definitely is the hardest. And it does give the other kids confidence, because the first ones, it's like, well, maybe I should go to school, maybe, but yeah, it's like, okay, it did work, all you people over the years. Question,
right? Right.
So
I feel like there's just a certain amount. There's like certain universal like things. And this is why I really like that book, The Power of Showing Up, because I feel like as long as you're doing those universal things, it really doesn't matter what other path. It's like basically like you can breastfeed your baby, you can bottle feed your baby, but really you just have to feed your baby.
Right.
And so you can send your kids to school, you can not send your kids to school, you can unschool, you can homeschool, you do whatever you want.
Right.
But as long as your intent and you're showing up for your kids and you're doing the best they like you can do, and you're conscious to what they need, you're not gonna make them psycho. You may have some parts that you don't like I have, like we all do. We have things that like school or our parents did or made us feel that we don't like, but like we're generally okay human beings, right?
So, sorry, I just
so I think it's
open the door. But go ahead.
I was just saying, like, basically, like, there's like it's just like your kids are gonna be okay as long as you're showing up for them and doing the best that you can for them.
Totally. I love that. We, you know what, we could probably talk for another hour and be like, yes. But before we go, is there any like last words or anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to tell people?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
I think we covered a lot.
Okay, we did. I think we got through a lot. So thank you so much for being on here.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Again, if you would like to be a guest on the show, just go to our website, homeschoolsuccessstories.com, and you can sign up and tell me why you would like to be on the show. I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll talk next time. Bye.